So imagine a society where you never have to lock your doors at night, like ever.
Right, which is pretty much unheard of today.
Exactly. And the weather is always perfectly engineered for farming. Your anxiety about paying rent or, just buying groceries is completely gone.
It sounds like a total paradise.
It really does. There's no oppression, no crime, and human potential is just like maximized. But imagine that the blueprint for achieving this perfect utopia requires you to simultaneously pray to Jesus Christ, the Buddha, and, well, Mao Zedong.
Yeah, it sounds like an absolute paradox, honestly.
Clearly.
But the text we're examining today argues that this specific, seemingly impossible synthesis of ideas is actually the only mathematical way to build a flawless society.
Which is just wild to wrap my head around.
Right. It proposes that utopia is not an economic problem. It's actually a structural engineering problem based entirely on the mechanics of human belief.
Welcome to today's deep dive. For you listening, our mission today is to unpack a really fascinating, highly provocative manifesto. It's titled Build Great Faith Cultural Construction in the Second Home, which is now called New Oasis for Life.
And it was written by a guy named Zoething.
Yes. Now, before we really get into the mechanics of this, I need to put a pin in something super vital for you. This text relies on a highly specific, very eclectic blend of major religious ideologies.
Extremely eclectic.
Yeah. It pulls from foundational spiritual texts, politically charged historical figures like we mentioned, Mao Zedong, and it makes massive cosmic claims by its modern author.
Right. So we want to make it absolutely clear to you listening that our deep dive today is an impartial, objective exploration of the ideas presented in this original text.
Exactly. We are not taking sides, we're not endorsing these viewpoints, and we certainly aren't validating the claims of the author.
Our goal is simply to examine the architectural concepts of belief that this source material lays out. We're basically looking at this blueprint purely as an artifact.
Right, we're conducting like a structural analysis. We just want to understand the internal logic holding this proposed worldview together.
No matter how unusual the building materials might seem to an outside observer.
Exactly. So to understand this literal paradise on Earth that the text promises, we really have to start at the very bottom of the author's blueprint.
Yeah, the foundation.
Right. The text lays out this rigid causal chain for how reality itself is constructed. And it goes like, this faith decides the type of soul. Then the soul decides the type of culture.
Right.
And finally, that culture decides the way of life, the modes of production, and like the overall operation mechanism of society.
It is a pure cause and effect equation.
Yeah.
The author's core premise here is that if you want to fix the operation mechanism of society, like if you want to eliminate poverty or war or just interpersonal strife,
Yeah.
you are wasting your time if you start by tweaking laws or economic policy. You actually have to go all the way back to the root variable.
Because without a healthy culture built on what the author called great faith, people just lose their direction.
Exactly. The text explicitly warns that a lack of great faith causes society to fall asunder. It plunges into chaos and internal strife, which ultimately just burns through time, energy, and material resources.
I was reading the section and I couldn't help but view it through the lens of software architecture.
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, like in this model, faith is essentially the base binary code, the zeros and ones.
Okay, yeah.
The soul is the operating system built on that code. Then the culture is the user interface we interact with. And society, like our laws, our economy, our daily lives, those are the actual applications running on the machine.
That analogy actually holds up perfectly against the text's internal logic.
Right. And if that base code is corrupted or fragmented, the soul is full of bugs, the culture glitches out, and the societal apps inevitably crash.
Yeah. Poverty and crime aren't just bad apps in this view. They are symptoms of corrupted foundational code.
Exactly. So that explains why the author designates this as the, quote, paramount principle of their cultural construction. But to prevent that system crash, the text introduces a highly specific extreme patch for the source code.
The concept of great faith.
Right, and this is where my modern brain really started flashing warning signs. How exactly does the author define this great faith?
Well, the author defines it as 100% belief and trust without a single shred of suspicion.
Not a single shred.
None. But it goes further than that. Crucially, the text asserts that great faith means trusting what you understand and trusting what you do not understand for the moment.
Wow. That second half is wild.
It really is the true philosophical engine of the manifesto.
Yeah.
It is an active, intentional demand to surrender doubt.
Because if you only trust what logically makes sense to your current level of intellect, I guess your faith is inherently limited by your own ignorance.
Precisely. Great faith in this framework requires leaping entirely past your own cognitive boundaries.
Which, if you're listening right now, you are probably rolling your eyes, or at least feeling a really strong sense of skepticism.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we are conditioned by society to do the exact opposite. We're taught to instantly search, cross-reference, verify, and aggressively question every single piece of information.
Right. Trusting what we don't understand just feels fundamentally dangerous to the modern mind.
It does.
But consider the psychological burden of our current era. We live in a state of profound epistemic exhaustion.
Oh, for sure. The burnout is real.
Right. We have to fact-check the news, verify sources, constantly guard against misinformation. It is a massive, exhausting cognitive load to carry around.
That is such a good point.
So by demanding absolute trust, even in the face of incomprehension, this text is offering a psychological trade-off. It's essentially offering to take that heavy backpack of skepticism off your shoulders entirely.
That makes a lot of sense when you put it like that, the relief of just letting the system do the thinking for you.
Yeah.
But that brings us to the most jarring part of this manifesto. Because once you agree to hand over that 100% unquestioning trust, we have to look at what the followers, who the text refers to as Chanyuan celestials, are actually instructed to put their faith into.
Yeah, and the syllabus is staggering. It really is.
It's massive. So how is this ideological architecture structured?
It's divided into 3 distinct pillars. Pillar 1 is the ancestor of Buddha, which is also referred to as the greatest creator.
Okay, so a universal divine source. That makes sense.
Right, that serves as the ultimate overarching source. But Pillar 2 is where the text drastically diverges from any conventional theology.
Because Pillar 2 is a highly specific, incredibly diverse group of historical figures.
Yes, you are instructed to build great faith in Jesus Christ, Buddha Sakyamuni, the immortal Lao Tse, the Prophet Muhammad, and
the great man Mao Zedong.
yes, Mao Zedong. I mean, you have the central figures of Christianity, Buddhism, Taoism, and Islam sitting in the exact same pantheon as the foundational figure of Chinese communism. It's an unprecedented mashup.
I have to stop here because this just looks like a catastrophic system error waiting to happen in our code analogy.
It definitely looks like a clash on the surface.
Right. You have Jesus, who preaches turning the other cheek in divine, otherworldly salvation. Then you have Mao Zedong, a 20th century historical materialist whose philosophy explicitly rejected religion as an opiate of the masses.
Right.
So if I'm a follower trying to build great faith, I feel like I'm getting massive ideological whiplash. How do these vastly different worldviews not instantly cancel each other out?
That is the natural question.
Like, who breaks the tie when Mao and Jesus disagree?
Well, the author's workaround is this concept of radical synthesis. The text actually doesn't ask followers to adopt the entirety of historical communism or Orthodox Christianity.
Okay, so it's not taking them wholesale.
Right. Instead, it argues for extracting specific core wisdoms from each to form what is called the most sublime wish.
The most sublime wish.
Yes. The vision is to extract this wisdom to realize an era where all methods are unified into one general principle and all religions are unified into one uniform religion.
So it's about finding the universal thread that runs through all of them, rather than getting bogged down in the contradicting dogmas.
Exactly. And you see this in the required reading list, too.
Yeah, the text demands followers read the greatest creator in Revelation, but then it lists the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and crucially, the Gospel of Judas.
Yes.
Which I find absolutely fascinating. Because the Gospel of Judas is a Gnostic text.
Right.
It essentially flips the Orthodox Christian narrative completely upside down. It argues that Judas wasn't a traitor at all, but rather the only disciple who actually understood Jesus' true secret message.
And mechanically, if you're an author trying to build a new unified worldview, including the Gospel of Judas, is a brilliant structural choice.
Oh, totally, because it validates the idea of hidden elite knowledge.
Precisely. It proves, within the framework of the syllabus, that established mainstream authorities can be completely wrong for millennia.
Right.
It primes the reader to be open to a radical reinterpretation of literally everything else they thought they knew.
It softens the ground for overturning orthodoxy. That is so clever. And on top of that, followers must have profound knowledge of the Diamond Sutra, which teaches the emptiness of all phenomena, and the Tao Te Ching.
It's a huge reading list.
Yeah. And they must worship the Islamic spirit of Muhammad and simultaneously learn Mao Zedong's spirit of serving the people with heart and soul.
The text describes trying to build a utopia without this comprehensive, unified faith as being like water without source and wood without root.
Meaning if you only follow one tradition, you're just disconnected from the whole of human wisdom.
Exactly.
But, there's also a secondary, perhaps more subtle effect of combining every major ideology into one giant tent like this.
Oh, what's that?
Well, if every religion, and even communism, is already inside the house, there is no outside left to escape to. If you ever feel doubt, the system already encompasses every alternative you might seek out. It's basically a closed-loop system.
That is a very sharp observation. It is a closed loop. And a closed loop requires a master compiler.
A master compiler.
Right. Which seamlessly answers your earlier question about who breaks the tie when these ideologies conflict. You cannot just hand an average person the Diamond Sutra, the Gospel of Judas, and the writings of Mao Zedong and expect them to magically derive a unified theory of everything.
Right. They need a referee.
They do. And enter Pillar 3 of this great faith, the modern guide, Shuifeng.
Ah, okay. The author himself.
Yes. Shuifeng positions himself as the sole individual capable of systematically and completely inheriting the wisdom of all these gods, Buddhas, and sages.
So the text essentially elevates the interpreter to the exact same level of faith as the text's being interpreted.
Exactly. And his claims in the text are just sweeping. He is credited with building a comprehensive theoretical system that explains literally everything.
Like what kind of everything?
The origins of the universe, the origins of life, mankind, time and space, and even the fundamental nature of science itself.
Wow. That is not a small claim.
No, it's not. But the rhetorical strategy he employs to establish this authority is particularly interesting. He doesn't just demand obedience. He issues a direct, almost aggressive challenge to the reader.
Oh, right. The text says, comparison can tell who is superior and who is inferior.
Yes. He invites followers to compare him to anyone in human history or anyone currently alive.
And he explicitly states that if anyone surpasses his words and actions, followers should abandon him immediately.
It projects supreme confidence. Like, go ahead, test my source code against anything else out there.
It's a bold move, but practically speaking, this is where my software analogy kind of breaks down, and I have to look at it more like a proprietary black box medicine.
Okay, how so?
Well, if I have a terrible disease, let's say the disease of modern anxiety, and someone hands me a pill, I don't actually need to understand the complex chemical synthesis of the ingredients.
Right.
I don't need to understand how the Gospel of Judas interacts with Mao Zedong's labor theories at a molecular level. I just need to know, does the pill cure my anxiety?
That is a highly accurate way to view the text's ultimate value proposition.
Okay.
Because while Swything claims to know the secrets of the heavenly kingdom and demands total surrender to escape what he calls the sea of tribulations, the actual proof of his guidance, the promised effects of the pill, as you put it, are surprisingly mundane.
Yeah, I was honestly expecting promises of, like, levitation or eternal cosmic consciousness.
I mean, there is a cosmic element, certainly. But the text heavily emphasizes that Swything is the only one who can ensure people simply sleep well, eat well, and play well.
It's so practical.
It is. It specifically highlights eliminating the very grounded, everyday fears of illness, finding clothing, securing shelter, and worrying about transportation.
So it's not just about reaching nirvana, it's about not having a panic attack over your grocery bill. And honestly, when you look at the mechanics of utopian literature throughout history, they almost always pivot on this exact point.
Oh, absolutely.
You cannot focus on your spiritual development or fully exhibit your true personality if your nervous system is constantly vibrating with the stress of basic survival.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs is fully operational within this utopian blueprint.
Right.
The promise is that by surrendering the heavy burden of trying to understand the universe, the guide frees you from the anxieties of daily survival so that you can truly enjoy the pleasure of life.
And that transition from the cosmic to the practical really leads us into the final, tangible vision of this text.
The Lifechanyuan era.
Yes. If a Chanyuan celestial puts in the work, if they read this massive contradictory syllabus, trust the guide implicitly, and successfully install this great faith into their source code, what is the actual reward? Like, what does this utopia actually look like?
The societal promises are vivid and absolute. The text describes an era where the worthy person can fully utilize his talents. The whole world is like one family.
Sounds beautiful.
It promises an environment entirely devoid of oppression, exploitation, bullying, or suppression.
And the physical manifestations of this society are incredibly striking, too. The text promises that no one will keep lost articles found on the roadside.
Right.
It guarantees that doors will not need to be bolted at night. It even goes so far as to promise that the weather itself will be in complete harmony, permanently perfectly suited for a good harvest.
Yeah, that weather manipulation claim is really the ultimate assertion of the cause and effect equation we discussed at the beginning.
Faith leading to culture, leading to society.
Exactly. If faith controls the soul and the soul controls the culture, then the culture, if it's perfectly aligned, literally harmonizes with the physical environment of the planet.
That is wild.
And underlying all of those physical promises is a permanent emotional state. The text declares that faith is truth, love is life.
Love is life.
By lighting the magical lamp of great faith in their hearts, followers are promised an escape from darkness, passivity, and pessimism. This allows them to climb what the text calls the soul mountain indomitably.
Small faith accomplishes small thing. Great faith accomplishes great thing. That line really stuck with me.
It's a powerful sentiment.
It is, because when you strip away the wildly specific theological figures, when you look past the sheer dizzying complexity of synthesizing Jesus, Buddha, and Mao, this text is tapping into a profoundly universal human desire.
Oh, without a doubt.
We all desperately want to be free from anxiety. We all want to live in a neighborhood so safe we don't even think about the locks on our doors.
Right.
We all crave an environment where our true personality can be fully expressed rather than suppressed by the exhausting grind of simply staying alive.
And the structural integrity of the author's argument for getting there is really remarkable.
It's airtight within its own logic.
It is. The unbolted doors, the perfect weather, the lack of anxiety, these are just magical rewards handed down from on high.
Right.
They're the optimized society's operation mechanism mentioned in the very first sentence of the text. It all flows mathematically from that initial premise.
If you control the faith, you curate the soul.
Yes. If you curate the soul, you design the culture. And if you design the culture, the utopia naturally emerges as a byproduct.
The building stands perfectly, assuming the blueprint was followed to the absolute letter.
Exactly.
It is a stunning piece of sociological architecture. And as we wrap up this deep dive, it really makes you turn the lens back on yourself.
It does.
For you listening right now, taking a break from your day to hear this, it kind of forces you to examine your own foundation.
Yeah.
While the specific syllabus we discussed today might sound entirely alien to your worldview, the underlying equation is undeniably worth pondering. How do your own foundational beliefs, whether they are strictly secular, deeply scientific, or traditionally spiritual, act as the source code for your personal culture?
That's the real question.
Does your internal belief system currently dictate how much anxiety you carry around about the future? Are your own societal apps crashing because your base code needs an update?
It really forces a mirror onto our own epistemic frameworks. And I think it leaves us with one final, perhaps unsettling question to mull over.
What's that?
Well, the text's entire foundation rests on defining great faith as trusting what you do not understand for the moment.
Right, that radical surrender.
Yes. But in our hyper-connected, hyper-skeptical modern age, we are conditioned to do the exact opposite. We demand proof, we demand data, and we demand transparency.
Constantly.
But as we stagger under the weight of that constant verification, we have to ask, is the capacity for unquestioning trust a lost human muscle?
Wow. Are we just too exhausted by our own skepticism to ever build a utopia?
And if absolute surrendered trust is completely gone from our modern toolkit, what alternative mechanism are we relying on today to cure our anxiety, secure our neighborhoods, and find our own way up the soul mountain?
That is definitely something to think about the next time you lock your doors at night.